But let's welcome on board Praveer Sinha, CEO and MD Tata Power, to talk about how their quarterly performance was and what's the visibility going forward. Mr. Sinha, always good to have you on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time out. Just looking at your numbers, while Mundra did well, the renewable PLF was low and lesser margins across the solar EPC as well. When do you anticipate better performance from renewable energy generation specifically?
Good morning. Always a pleasure to be on your show. This is the 19th consecutive quarter in which we have shown growth in PAT. And I think the way the company is structured now and the foundation that has been laid, you can expect only better results going forward. As you mentioned, Mundra has been cost reflective because it is operating under Section 11, and this will continue for at least one more quarter, if not more. The second is we are also seeing an uptake in our renewable business. EPC margins have been under stress because there was a lot of inventory that was lying with us, which we had procured last year before the 31st March deadline. And those are now getting utilized in various projects. We will see much better performance going forward because now we are manufacturing the modules ourselves. The module line is fully commissioned, and the cell line will get commissioned partly this month and partly in the next month. So I think you will start seeing very good results in our renewable business from third quarter onwards, much better margins and much better profitability that you would see. So I think good initiatives that have been taken. It takes little time for them to stabilize, but you can expect very good results going forward from renewable business.
Right. And what about solar EPC? What's the order visibility like and how the execution is likely to pick up? Could you give some color on that?
So our renewable portfolio for our own utility scale is nearly 5 gigawatt, which will get implemented in next 24 months. Apart from that, we have third-party EPC of nearly 3 gigawatts. So nearly 8 gigawatt will get implemented in next 24 months. We have already seen that in this quarter, we have added nearly 400 megawatt, and many of them which got delayed in the last few days because of the evacuation delays have happened in the month of July. So I think this year we will do 3,000 plus of implementation of projects, out of which about 1,300 will be our own Tata Power utility scale, and balance will be the third party. And next year you will find majority of the 4 gigawatt that we will set up will be the Tata Power projects.
Morning, Mr. Sinha. Nikunj also joining in. Always so lovely to have you on ET now.
Thank you.
With all the advantages, there was one disadvantage for the quarter gone by, which is the volatility in coal prices, something which is beyond your control. But that coal trading has added a substantial part to your profits. If there is a linear decline in the commodity prices, what could be the impact of that on the aggregate picture for this year?
So what we have seen is, excepting for 2 years, that is FY21 and 22, the coal prices have since then stabilized, and we have seen that virtually it is in the same band that we see the coal prices, and we expect that it will continue in the same band. So this has already been built in our annual plan and in the quarterly plan, wherein we do not expect very large returns like we saw in FY21 and 22 from the coal companies. And in spite of that, you see that our profits have improved. This quarter, we have shown that compared to last year's similar quarter, 84% of the profit has come from our core businesses. That means in our generation, transmission, distribution, and renewable. So I think it is a very good movement towards stabilizing our operations. And I think this gives us a lot of confidence that you will see very good and consistent performance, considering that there is a lot of capital expenditure that we are incurring in this year. and the results will start showing in the subsequent quarters.
So for the quarter gone by, could you give us a broad split for our viewers in terms of understanding of how much is coming from the traditional thermal business for you, which you are not growing now, but that business is still part of the main revenue pie? How much is coming from solar and renewable? And in next 3 years, how will the pie change?
So I think we have virtually about 30% coming from each of our businesses. From our renewable business, we have between 25 to 30%. Coal business from our conventional generation business, that is our coal plants and also our hydro plants, we get about 30%. And similarly from our transmission and distribution. So I think very consistent returns we are getting from each of the businesses, and each of these businesses, I think, will continue to support overall Tata Power in its performance in future quarters.
Your current business in transmission is both renewable and non-renewable, is tied up in terms of PLAs and PLIs, and how much is right now a function of market dynamics in terms of merchant power and other other market conditions?
Well, very little of our power is actually sold in the merchant power. I would say not even 5% of our power is in the merchant. So most of it is through long-term PPA, and where we get a regulated return on equity. And that's why you see that our consistency in performance is because of the long-term tie-ups that we have. And the delta increase that we get from merchant is only a very, very small fraction, and to that extent does not change the needle on an overall basis. And I think going forward also, we find that whether we do utility scale renewable projects or we do the CNI projects for renewable, all of them get fully tied up before we implement those projects. So we do it on a little conservative basis, but that gives us a very consistent performance going forward.
Okay. So you backed or 3 transmission bids, right? Worth about 4,600 odd crore rupees during the first quarter. Tell me, what's the bid pipeline like for transmission, whether it's going to continue to swell up or not, if you could give us some highlights?
You're right that we have now started bidding for our transmission projects, and 3 of the projects are under implementation, apart from 2 which we got through the stressed asset route. And in fact, out of the 2, both of them, the phase 1 of them have been implemented and are already part of the revenue and profit. And secondly, the existing projects, the 3 projects will complete in next financial year and thereafter. So I think we are going to be a big player in transmission. Only about 2 weeks back, we won a big project in Odisha, and we expect that going forward, many more projects we will be bidding very aggressively and take a pole position in transmission business too.
Right, Mr. Sinha, morning. I also wanted to understand a little bit more about the partnership with Druk Green Power Corporation. Can you tell us a little bit more in terms of how this is going to strengthen clean energy collaboration between India and Bhutan and what it brings to the table for the company?
So this is the second project that we are doing in Bhutan, and this is it merges well with our long-term plan to move towards clean energy. We already have a 126 megawatt project, a hydro plant, which is with Druk Green, that has been operating for last 12 years and have been supplying power to India. In this 600 megawatt, the investment is about 6,900 crores, out of which 70% will come as debt from Indian financial institutions and banks. 30% will be equity. Out of the 30% equity, 40% will be with Tata Power and 60% with Druk Green. The equity is fully tied up both by Druk Green as well as by us, and our contribution will be 820 to 30 crores. We expect that the power that will be produced, and this is a unique project where the power will be produced right through the year from the hydro plant. In the winter months, because there is a shortage of power in Bhutan, this power will be supplied in Bhutan for the period November to April. And from May to October, the power will be supplied in India, which is again the period where we have huge demand of power. And I think it will be a unique public-private partnership in Bhutan for Tata Power. We are looking for that we will possibly engage in few more projects in Bhutan. And this is the beginning of many more investments that can happen in Bhutan by Tata Power.
Let's talk about solar rooftops, because you also are a very important player in that. Tell us, what is your current market share? What are the plans going forward? How is it that you plan to scale this up?
So we have already completed more than 100,000 rooftop solar houses. We are the biggest in the rooftop business in the organized sector. We have more than 20% market share. We have huge plans to work with the government, especially the PM Surya Ghar program. And we are enhancing our capability both in terms of our channel partners, as also in terms of the reach that we will have with our own teams and the supply chain. So I think over a period of time, you will see that we will become one of the biggest players of rooftop solar in the country.
So let's take the clock back, Mr. Sinha, then we'll take the clock forward. Now, when I say I want to take the clock back, 3 to 4 years ago, Tata Power started reinventing itself. They decided not to expand in thermal capacity. They decided to become a renewable company. They decided to expand in the distribution business. And they started reducing a lot of debt. That's the last 3-year story for Tata Power for us. Next 3 years, what should be the story?
Next 3 years, you will see that we become very strong in our renewable portfolio, our renewable business, which includes the manufacturing, and where we were little struggling earlier in terms of supply chain from another country, will become self-sufficient. So everything that we manufacture in our new plant, which is already operational, the module plant is fully operational, and the cell plant will become operational in this month and next month. So we will become very, very resilient in terms of our supply chain, and also consistency in terms of quality and the price of the modules. That will help us to get better returns and margins on the projects that we bid. And also in the rooftop solar, where there is a necessity of providing DCR modules. That means both the cell and module has to be manufactured in India. So I think renewable will play a very, very important role. You will also see that there will be a lot of growth in our hydro business, the hydro in Bhutan, as well as the pumped hydro in India. The 2,800 megawatt will get implemented. And similarly, few more opportunities will look in Bhutan. We will also become a big player in our transmission business. We already have few projects undergoing, and we will possibly win few more projects going forward. And we are definitely looking for opportunities in distribution, where we are engaged with some of the state governments of the distribution reforms that they can carry out in their state, as we have done in Odisha. So I think you will find a lot of consolidation, a lot of capability in these areas. And we will continue to be number one in engaging with the customers to bring about a change in clean energy space. And I think that's the story of Tata Power going forward.
You are looking at expanding in the solar rooftop, but every large corporate is also looking at expanding in the solar rooftop. I mean, there are numbers as to what some of the other corporates are talking in terms of how they want to expand in solar rooftop. My understanding of the solar rooftop business is that it's like a floppy disk, which is that technology keeps on going better and prices, they keep on coming lower. If expanding in a business where pricing and competition will increase, don't you think margins will remain under pressure and demand will remain great, but supply will be more?
So basically, when we look at the rooftop, it's about a retail business and giving the customer experience. I don't think the type of reach that we have with more than 500 channel partners and a very, very seamless customer engagement program and seamless supply chain, it is possible for others to come very quickly and build a capacity as we are. We are now enhancing this many more times because of the PM Surya Ghar program. And I think the unique experience that we have in this area, it will take a lot of time for any other competitor to come in. So I think we have a good market presence. Secondly, our product is very good, and based on the feedback that we get from the market and our channel partners, our product is possibly the best in the market, much, much better than any other competitor. And I think we will continue to have a number one position in this for many years to come. So I do expect that you will see strong amount of inroads by Tata Power in rooftop solar, much higher than any other company in the market.
Growing without diluting, which is that your EPS in FY21 was 5 rupees. FY24 projected data, FY24 reported EPS 10.5 rupees. It is expected to be about 13-14 rupees this year. There is a 15 to 20% surge every year in EPS. Will that trend continue for next 3 or 4 years?
It will only improve, as I mentioned to you, that this is the 19th consecutive quarter of growth in PAT. Very good foundation. We have taken care of many things which we were earlier dependent on someone, especially the supply chain for renewables. We are now more confident about some of our existing operations. The Odisha Discom changeover has happened. We went through a difficult time in terms of the initial years of changeover. So you will only see much better performance going forward, and my expectation is it will be much better than what we have done in the past.
Now, there is a benchmark valuation which you'd set up for your RE business with BlackRock, but that was like almost 2 years ago. That business has become big. Are you reaching that stage where, like some of the other Tata Group companies have done, which is Tata Motors, they've split the businesses? Are you getting Tata Power also moving in that direction, that eventually the renewable business and the non-renewable business will be separate?
So our immediate objective is to make this business fairly big and fairly stable. So right now, at least for next 2 years, we have our hands full with the 8 gigawatt of EPC implementation, out of which 5 will be for Tata Power. So once we become 10 gigawatt and we have a huge pipeline at that stage in terms of implementation, we may look at any other opportunities. But today, our full concentration is to implement and execute these projects, and we are only concentrating on that and not looking for any other thing.
Are you saying that there is no plan in place to split the renewable business, or that is something which could happen eventually it reaches a size? I'm just trying to read in between lines. I hope you'll appreciate my curiosity.
I understand that, but I would say that at this stage, we are concentrating on creating assets. But 2 years down the line, what will happen is very speculative to say.
Has prompted me for a question, and she said that, Arey, how can we not ask nuclear? Government has allowed power companies now to expand capacity in the nuclear space. Being a Tata company, I'm sure you have advantage of brand and you have experience. What are you planning to do in the nuclear space?
So we are waiting for the government to come back with their policy document on public-private partnership. I can only tell you that we will definitely examine this objectively. We strongly believe that we have the capability in terms of implementing such type of projects and operating them. We understand that there are aspects about safety and security, aspects about fuel sourcing. So that's where we need to hear from the government in their policy of how they will address some of these challenges. But you can definitely expect that from Tata Power side, we will be examining this opportunity very closely.
Say that Tata Power, not Motors, I beg your pardon. Tata Power at some point in time, it could be 2, 3 or 5 years eventually, could be looking at perhaps having different businesses lived separately. I'm doing my job as member of press trying to read in between lines.
Well, as management, our job is to set up projects and implement them correctly and run businesses. So let's concentrate on that. The execution is the key over here. And I think we will just keep our head down and do the execution. If there are any other opportunities that will come in future, we'll definitely look at them.
Telling us is that the business of renewable or RE business has reached a critical mass where marked improvement would be there. If your EPS trajectory is 5 rupees to 10 rupees in a matter of 3 to 4 years, the trajectory is going to be in the same direction, which means that it's not a mathematical number, but I'm talking about a directional uptick of 20 to 25% you think will continue for multi-years.
Definitely, that's the minimum that I'm expecting.
Appreciate your time, sir. I mean, such a powerful interview in terms of where Tata Power is. From 4.5 rupees EPS, if you're looking at 15, 16 rupees this year on that base, if this kind of a technology uptick continues, I think it's fantastic news.